Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, as I've supported men in their love and work lives for 15 years now, many men ask for the right words to say to be more successful, attractive, and desirable. But I found it's not so simple as giving scripts or lines because every man is different. So giving words or scripts would be like giving a tall, thin man a shorter, wider man's pants, or vice versa. The words have to make sense for you and your personality, and there's so much happening beneath the surface that people are responding to. If you're interested in how to become a better lover and leader in your own unique way, go to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz, or you can text ALIVE to 44144. It only takes a couple minutes and you'll start to get an idea of how you can be both more respected and desired. After you fill it out, we can schedule a time to review your quiz and talk about your specific challenges and desires. So again, go to either shanajamescoaching.com/quiz or text ALIVE to 44144. That's ALIVE to 44144. Enjoy this episode of Man Alive. Hello and welcome to this episode of Man Alive. I'm Shana James and I'm here by myself today, and it's Men's Health Month. We're almost at the tail end of Men's Health Month, and I wanted to make sure to give you an episode on your health and well-being. And what I decided is that I wanted to talk about an overlooked aspect of men's health. And that aspect is relational health. I think there are starting to be more articles and more research on how important it is that men are connected to other men, that they're connected to their partners, right? That men in isolation or men who are single and out of relationship tend to actually have more health problems. They don't live as long. And so it's starting to be looked at and talked about, but I also think it's not as common as physical health, emotional health, sexual health. So I wanted to give you some foundations of what actually makes for healthy relationships. What is relational health? The way I see it, when a relationship is healthy or when a man has relational health, his relationships are stronger rather than fragile, right? You're not as afraid, oh, this is going to break, or oh, I could snap this at any point. The relationships are uplifting rather than draining. And so as you engage with other people, you feel more energized rather than, drained or heavy. They're inspiring rather than demoralizing or defeating. So as you walk away from a conversation, ideally, right? Not every conversation is going to be inspiring. We all have our moments. But for the most part, you feel inspired by a person rather than there's some kind of sense of defeat or you're misunderstood or, you're feeling demoralized by that relationship. So you can start to think about the relationships in your life. And I tend to work with many people on romantic relationships. So if you want to look at your romantic relationship first, you can start to ask yourself, are these the qualities that you're experiencing in your relationship? And if not, start to ask yourself, why not? Right? What is creating a relationship to feel fragile or draining or demoralizing? What is going on there? And you may or may not have answers immediately arise, but the willingness to ask that question, the willingness to sit in the curiosity is a powerful move rather than just settling or just thinking, I guess, this is what I get. Many of my clients have realized that they settled for an unfulfilling relationship because they're thinking, when something like this, I'm afraid I'm going to hurt someone or make someone feel bad. I don't value my own needs or desires. And again, that thinking I said, like, well, I guess this is as good as it gets, right? I guess it doesn't get any better than this, because if it could get better, it would be better, which is a self-defeating story, right? All of these are kind of ideas that I have to stay where I am. I have to suffer and I have to endure a relationship that doesn't actually feel inspiring. Now, I know it's not black or white, right? And so it's not necessarily a stay or go conversation, but it could be a conversation to have with your partner. Okay, how do we feel more inspired together? How do we create a stronger connection? How do we make sure our relationship is uplifting? I want to focus on 3 foundations of relational health and healthy relationships today to keep it simple, because I think this is a great place to start. And the first one I want to start with is respect, because respect is the foundation of a healthy relationship. Somehow in our culture, the closer we feel to someone, the more we tend to think we can speak to them, in any way. We can just be off the cuff or rude or not really consider the impact. This is often the way people in romantic relationship treat each other, worse than a friend, thinking it's okay to just treat someone almost like the voices in our own head treat ourselves, right? It's almost like that person is no longer a separate being or a separate entity. And so often it can be that, oh, well, it's fine to talk to this person in a harsh tone or to say rude things or to be passive aggressive, partially because, right, again, that person is no longer a separate being from you. And partially because there's this safety or sense of this is the closest relationship I have. And rather than it actually feeling fragile to some people, it feels like this is a really strong container. And so I can kind of test the limits. But without respect, relationships generally don't have a lot of spark. They don't have a lot of that ooey gooey softness and connection. Terry Real, an amazing psychologist, said in one of the courses I've taken with him, there's nothing that can be handled with harshness that can't be addressed with firm love. So what I'm not saying is that you have to just, let everything slide, right? If you're upset about something that you have to let it go, no, but you can actually be firm and loving at the same time. You can set a boundary. You can say no. You can say this doesn't work for me. And it doesn't have to be with an attack or blame or shame or a harsh tone. The way I see it, harshness is a sign of disrespect, and disrespect is not a loving act or a healthy act. And not only does it hurt the person who you're communicating with, or it may be you who's getting communicated with, but it hurts both people, right? So if you are the one who's communicating with harshness, think about the state of your mind and body that you're in when you're contracted and riled up and fiery. It's not healthy for you either. Sometimes people get disrespectful when they don't feel heard and when they feel they've asked or they think they've asked many, many times, right? I need this, or this is important to me, or why aren't you hearing me? So what I think is important is to look at the dynamic. If you are the one who is thinking, well, it's not me, she's being fiery with me. When you start to blame the fiery person, we don't actually get to see the whole story. Now, that said, on the other side, I would say each of us needs to communicate and take responsibility for how we're communicating. So even if you're exasperated, you can actually find respectful ways to communicate your needs. So I really love the saying, it takes 2 to tango, because I've never seen a dynamic that didn't have responsibility on both sides or creation on both sides, right? We're creating these dynamics together. If someone else was in a relationship with your partner, they would have very different dynamics, and they're not going to be rainbows and butterflies either. But whatever you're bringing to the table is getting acted out in your relationship dynamic. So what is most important is, or what is a foundation, is to make sure that you are being respectful with your partner, that you're communicating in respectful ways, because otherwise it's going to fall apart. And whether you stay together or whether you leave each other, right, there's going to be more pain for each of you. Another part of respect I would say is important is curiosity. And rather than assuming you know why your partner has done what he or she has done, starting to really get curious. Wow, I wonder what would have her or him act that way. I wonder what he or she is upset about. If I actually start to understand more, I'm less likely to be disrespectful. Which leads me to the second foundation of relational health, which is to be understood and to offer understanding, or at least to be open to understanding, even if you don't understand. I love the concept of shared reality. Shared reality means we actually are on the same page about what's happening, even if we don't agree. We're on the same page about not agreeing, right? We can witness it from almost a side view and look at our dynamic and have this shared understanding, even about a misunderstanding. The way I see it is, if as a couple, each person is not trying to understand the other, there's a major breakdown, right? This is not a healthy dynamic. We can't be on the same team and rooting for each other if we don't understand each other. And many couples react in frustration when one member of the couple wants something that the other doesn't agree with. And rather than slowing down, right, the healthy move is to slow down, face your own fear, and get curious about yourself and your own reaction and why you're having a big reaction, and curious about what the other person, what's the deeper why, why the other person is asking for what they're asking for, and really trying to understand more before you come to a conclusion. I've had countless conversations where my immediate reaction was, to feel fiery or to feel upset or to feel scared. And when I actually took the time to slow myself down and ask the question or questions, why is this important to you? What are you really wanting here? How can I see that this is not personal? It's not about me being a failure or something wrong with me here. As I've really gotten more of that understanding, my nervous system has been able to settle, and I'm able to really be for my partner, right, on the same team, as opposed to someone who's on the other team and thinking if they win or they get something they want, then I'm losing or not getting something I want. Many couples are left in a kind of gridlock and not understanding the source of their frustration when they don't go to that deeper level of understanding. And so, it could be something around wanting to spend time with friends, or wanting to have more sex, or wanting to get a babysitter to have I was going to say a sex night, a date night. If you're in a relationship, a date night could be a sex night. And whatever the, external desire is, when we can start to understand that deeper sense of, well, I want to have a date night because I want to feel closer to you, or I want to spend more time with my friends because I start to feel more alive and more passionate and inspired when I'm spending, when I get a variety of different people in my life. And it's not personal. It's not about you, right? So we don't have to be defensive, right? There's a different tone that could happen. Well, it's not about you, and I have to spend time with you all the time. And, now we're in a damn pandemic and we're together all the time, right? You don't have to get defensive about it, but you get to stand up for yourself and share why something's important to you. And I hear this from men who identify as nice guys, that they don't feel understood and then they just drop the issue. But what I would really suggest is asking for, standing strong in that place and clear in that place of, I really need to be understood about this. This is something I need. And going the other way, when your partner is asking for understanding, really taking the time to make sure and let your partner know, I really want to understand you about this. The third aspect of healthy relationships or relational health I want you to understand today is that relationships that are healthy are clear. There are no grudges or resentment or, unsaid, hidden ideas or frustrations, right? They're clear of righteousness, and they're also clear of a kind of collapse or giving up. Now, what that doesn't mean, again, is, oh, it's all rainbows and butterflies and we can get 100% clear and nobody's going to have any upset with each other. But it's like a wound, right? You can clean up a wound when it happens. You can put some Neosporin on it, put a Band-Aid on it, let it heal, or it can fester. And so I guess when a relationship is clear, I mean, we don't have these festering wounds or these places where we've just given up and we're not actually communicating with each other about what's important to us or what matters or when we're in pain. This doesn't mean that we have to share every grievance we have or every moment of frustration. I find in my own relationship, sometimes there's a stepping into a maturity and realizing that I've been small-minded, right? Realizing that I can either come from the mature part of me that doesn't get irritated by how someone talks or walks or sleeps or snores or any of that. Or I could come from that smaller part of me that has these grievances and upsets, on a regular basis. So this is not about attacking or blaming someone else or sharing every grievance you have. It's about getting more mature with how you bring these places of upset, of frustration, of disappointment, right? It's bringing more vulnerability and sharing desires or sharing sooner when something has upset you or hasn't worked for you, rather than waiting and letting that wound fester, doing your best to clear out whatever seems like it's in the way. One of the examples I use that I learned from someone else years ago is that there's this, you could think of it like a pane of glass between two people. And as we have more unsaid experiences, unspoken upsets, frustrations, disappointments, and hurts, it's like throwing paint on that glass. And eventually that glass gets covered over and we can barely see each other, right? We're like squinting through these little peepholes instead of really clearly being able to see each other. So there's a willingness here to clear these experiences. Now, if you don't know how to clear, right, that's a really good time to get some help, get some support from a coach or a therapist or a friend. If you're met as you try to clear with frustration on the other side, again, it's a time to get help, because there may be a way that you're bringing up a topic that is shutting another person down. Or it may be that there is no context in your relationship for the fact that we are actually going to clear. Sometimes when I'm working with a client, we have to go back and look at, do you have any agreements? Do you have a framework for your relationship? Most people don't. And it can seem kind of strange, like, what? I'm going to create agreements or I'm going to create a framework for my relationship. But, if you have the agreement that if something is bothering us, we're going to clear it, that's a very different relationship than if that's never been talked about, that's never been discussed, right? That relationship where it's never been discussed, it can be just more natural or more just the way it goes to just not say anything and shove things under the rug and, wait for them to get better a couple days later. But eventually what tends to happen is the intimacy and the spark fade. So these are 3 simple elements of relational health: respect, understanding, offering it and being understood, receiving it, and then making sure your relationships are clear. And like I was just speaking about, if you don't have any agreements in your relationship, this could be a great time to mention, hey, I was just listening to this podcast on relational health, and the coach was talking about respect, clearing, and understanding, and the importance of those. And I'd love to do more of that in our relationship. How would that be for you? Do you want to do that? If someone says no, you could say, okay, what would actually make that feel more exciting or inspiring for you, because it's something that actually really matters to me. It's really important to me. It can be harder when you are already in a relationship with someone else to set this up, because you already have your dynamics. But I would really encourage you not to settle and not to think, well, this is as good as it gets. This is how it's going to be. And if you're single, it's a really great way to set up your relationship foundation, a foundation of health, by talking about these things from the beginning. All right. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at shaina@shainajamescoaching.com. And I highly recommend checking out our recent podcast episodes on what builds trust and why you might want to wait to have sex. And there's a bunch of other great topics. One of my favorite episodes was about how having struggles with having an erection can actually be the opening to an amazing and pleasurable sex life. So on the Man Alive podcast, we have a range of topics around relationships, sensuality, health, money, leadership. So if there's any topics you are excited to hear about, let me know that as well. And I hope that you have a great rest of your month and stay healthy. I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and it gave you something to consider and explore in your life. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shainajamescoaching.com/quiz or text the word ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 to get a sense of how you can become a better lover and leader. You'll start to see how you can be both more respected and desired in your unique and genuine way. If you don't feel as confident or as excited about life or love as you'd like to be, this quiz is a really great starting point and will guide you toward a more passionate love life and a more inspiring and successful career. So again, text ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 or head over to shainajamescoaching.com/quiz. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.